All right, welcome and thank you so much for showing up for our Why the Arts with Soularize in 2021. And we are going to be doing Soularize on October 21st, 22nd, 23rd in Fullerton live, but we'll also be doing it in virtual villages around the country and around the world. And the way in which we'll do the program is to have people from the community submitting works. And so with the arts, we're very excited about finding those who might want to submit anything from spoken word to imagery to short films to videos, music, and those will be implemented into our program and shown both on the Fullerton feed to those who are on the app. It'll be on the Whova app, but also there'll be villages that even if you're not selected for the program that's streamed through Fullerton, some of the villages might pick up the art and put it into their own villages. So there's multiple ways that you'll be able to showcase your work. And so thank you so much for being a part of this. If you'll see, we've got Shayna Metzner. She's the co-producer of Soularize, and then Barry Taylor, who is our Soularize art curator. We just thank you so much for being with us. We're going to be doing a theme on Soularize this year. Soularize has always been a pop-up event, and it's kind of come up at different times. We're kind of celebrating our 20th anniversary. And believe it or not, it was in October, just less than 30 days after 9/11. And that was such a time as this, where we needed to gather together. And I think emerging out of COVID, it's kind of such a time as this again, where we need to be listening to each other, hearing from each other, and understanding where we've been, where we think we're headed, sharing the things that we might be doing in our little cocoons, reimagining ideas and thoughts. And perhaps if there is a silver lining to it, there may be some things that will emerge that we would have never, ever had the opportunity to think about, draw with, sing about, do in so many ways. The theme is actually on the idea of humane spirituality. We'll be talking about that a little bit more. Today we're going to be talking about each of these areas as we move through, and we'll also have Q&A, and you can always ask questions in between as well. Well, my name is Spencer Burke, and I founded the Ooze back in 1998. And out of that, we felt like it was an online platform for people to kind of just have a conversation. We called it Conversation for the Journey. And out of that, we felt like we needed some face-to-face time too. So for those who had the ability to be able to travel, we started an event called Soularize, and we called it a learning party. And as we've looked back on Soularize, who are the people who've kind of attended it, we actually have found in retrospect that they've been spiritual innovators. I don't know if you've ever seen the innovation curve, how it goes up and down. But the first part is innovators and then early adopters, and it's about 16% of the population. We think that's probably true about the spiritual population as well. So Soularize is not for everyone. Everyone is welcome. But the things that we'll be looking for are things that are more on the edge, more kind of, things that could be controversial. We always remind people that every orthodoxy starts with a heresy. Not every heresy becomes orthodoxy. So you will come and find craziness. In fact, I don't know if any of you have been following the Christianity Today thing, Why Mars Hill Died, I think is the name of it. But they played a deal from Soularize 20 years ago. In fact, the person who's doing it was at Soularize, and they were talking about Mark Driscoll, and played one of the things. And man, I'll tell you, he was pretty wild and crazy there at Soularize. So you never know what's going to happen in wonderful ways. Today we'll be talking about the idea of the arts. And so what we'd love to do, if you don't mind, is kind of go around and kind of just say your name, maybe where you're from, and maybe what interests you have in this, or even if you have a medium that you might be considering. Many might be just asking, what is this about as well? So if you want to, go ahead and just jump in at any time, and then we'll end up with Shayna and Barry kind of sharing their story at the end. So anyone want to kind of join in and share?
I'm going to call on Rick Diamond.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Rick. I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was at the first Soularize. It was great and weird, and it was very inspiring for me. And it led to the creation of a lot of cool things for me, including a faith community in Austin, Texas, that I was part of for 17 years. And I've recently handed that off, and now I'm getting to do other things. I do spiritual direction and workshops and classes, and I teach in an online seminary. And I'm also an artist, and specifically an illustrator and a cartoonist. And a lot of my work is around spiritual themes, myth, reinterpreting scripture, just crazy stuff that's inspiring to me. And so that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to call on Kevin C.
Hi, my name's Kevin. I'm not 100% sure why I'm here because it's 3 a.m. But you know, part of my history, I ran a venue which was a gallery and a live music venue within a cafe, actually called Mars Hill Cafe, but no association with Mark, who you mentioned, but more of an interest in the idea that was Mars Hill. Led a faith community there. I've written some music over time and done some performance. More recently, I've done a little bit of shooting on iPhone and editing and that sort of thing, but more interested just to find out about something else that Barry's been involved in, just because we've done a little bit of journey together the last few years. And yeah, I'm interested in some of the remnant stuff that's still happening within Christianity, even though in a lot of ways I've left, but still have my connections. I do still teach at my old university in Michigan, Grace Christian University. So I've got some weird connections, even though I'm quite distant, and spent 20 years being a missionary for a very fundamentalist kind of splinter sect within Christianity.
Wow, thanks, Kevin. Okay, Gary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Lindblad. I'm here in Fullerton, California. I'm the Dean of the Kroll School of Business at Biola University, and have been business school deans at University of Toronto, Rotman, UC Irvine, and started all of that at UCLA. But Spencer and I met back when he was a student at Biola in the 80s. And back then I was director of student ministries, had a band called Gary Lindblad and the Undergrads. So I was a grad student, they were undergrads, and played all over California. It was in the 80s, so it was contemporary Christian music. We always did a rock show, and then also wrote music for youth groups to sing along with, and did it in kind of a rock and roll kind of deal. I've been involved in music all my life, so as we look at kind of my career, moving to business schools, I did my doctorate over at UCLA, and so in organizational behavior in higher education, and so I always use the musical side. I'm still writing. I wrote songs last week. I have an EP out called A Story Tonight, and that. So we have a real creative household. Our son has a band called Rebel Revive, and we've got a recording studio here in the house, and so there's video and all kinds of crazy things going on here. So great to see Kevin down in Australia. I've been down there a bunch of times. Good friend of mine, Randall Waller, musician, the Waller brothers, been in my band, been in their bands over the years. We met in the 70s playing music together in New York, and so and good to see somebody from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've got a friend there, Dennis Marker, went to high school with. He's also kind of on the edge, and that you might enjoy getting to know him. Anyway, great to be here. Thanks for putting it together, Spencer.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Gary.
Shayna, why don't you go, and then Barry will wrap it up.
Excellent. So my name is Shayna Metzner. I am not any sort of professional Christian. I'm in the trade show business for many years. Obviously, that's changed and it's opened up some time for me to work with Spencer. We worked together back in the day. I helped sell sponsorships and stuff for him. And he hit me up earlier this year and said, dude, do you want to like get the band back together, so to speak, and celebrate a 20-year anniversary, and what like such a time as this. So I just was really inspired by the theme, humane spirituality. And I just thought, gosh, we just haven't been known as a, kind of a, I'm a mystic, I would call myself now, but, thank goodness for meeting Spencer long ago on my journey that really opened things up for me. And I just don't think, I do think that it's such a time as this for humane spirituality. We need to get together. This is ridiculous what we've been experiencing. So I'm happy to help out, and just glad to see you guys. Thanks for coming.
Well, I'm Barry Taylor, and I live now in London, but I lived in Los Angeles for 3 decades. And I actually met Spencer at the first Soularize. We'd sort of moved in similar circles, but never connected, even though we only lived an hour and a half from each other. But it took going to Seattle to make that happen. But and then over the years, we've done a lot of collaborations together, and we worked on a few Soularize events in Venice Beach, and the greatest one of all in Nassau in the Bahamas that most people decided not to come to, but they really should have. So when Spencer said he was deciding to do Soularize again this year, would I want to be involved? I thought, well, yeah, why not? Because it's always been an interesting, and as Rick said, slightly manic and crazy kind of environment. And Rick, I wish I'd known that you were in Austin. I used to take a group of students from a seminary that I taught to South by Southwest every year. And the only other church people that I interacted with tended to be, well, whatever, you can work it out. But anyway, but I used to, yeah.
We could have lots of fun. We'll have fun at Soularize. It's all good.
What was your community in Austin?
Journey Imperfect Faith Community.
Wow. Sounds about right for Austin. Yeah, well, anyway, so it's good to be here and good to see everybody. And I've done a lot of things in my life, but the constant has always been an artistic bent, particularly around music. I think it is my first and true church, and always has been. And music's been something that I've been involved in various ways up until right now. But I also do some visual art, I paint, and I do a lot of collage work. And so I'm going to kind of coordinate the art section of this whole mad experiment, and see if we can get some people to contribute their arts and stuff to the program. But we'll talk about that as we go on. So anyway, good to be with everybody.
Thank you, Barry. Well, I've touched on a little bit before of why Soularize and why now. But the idea that the pandemic is over and so many of us have had extra time almost, or space at least, that we haven't been afforded before. And I think arts is something that always leads us forward. It seems like government and religion are the last vestiges to move forward or to change or transition. But it seems as if the arts are always the ones who are the banners out in front of the whole game. And as we've talked about Soularize in Seattle, I co-founded a film festival called the Dema Film Festival. And I remember we did it at the EMP, and to see Father Roar with his, hood and the whole thing, but with headphones and listening to, the Grateful Dead at the EMP and going down and watching spiritual films, and for him to come back and go, wow, to have a Native American potlatch there with 30 different tribes represented and sharing stories. There's something beautiful about the expressions of art. And I actually saw the Native American potlatch as art, the beautiful expression and idea and story that was shared in the same way that music or film. Even at Soularize that year, I remember Rita Springer, who was supposed to be our opener. I remember right after 9/11, the whole idea of the TSA starting to really crack down on things. And so she got caught in Denver and couldn't make it to the opening ceremony. And I remember looking around, and I just said, does anybody have any musical talent? And a world-class djembe player said, well, I'm here. And I remember just turning over a trash can, throwing it out as fast as I could, handing it to him and go, can you play this? He's like, yeah, and then the Native American flute came up, and then, a Waterdeep was actually there, and they're like, no, we came here just to be here. And they're like, well, if it's this moment, we'll just jump in, but we don't have guitars. And then somebody grabbed guitars from the cars. Do you see the spirit of how this all kind of goes? And I think that this is that same kind of time. And really, the idea, I think, is not only the time and place to be able to do an event and call artists and musicians and storytellers, and also those who have been workshopping ideas and creating new ideas through startup pitches. I mean, all of that is part of this wonderful place of gathering people together. But I also think the theme is extremely important. And that is on the idea of really thinking about humane spirituality. And what we mean by humane spirituality, it's really open for a large, wide conversation. We're not trying to say humane spirituality is just this. But I would say this in thinking about it. In our crazy time today, especially in the US, the political environment, I have watched Christians call one thing sin and the other group call it righteous. And I've watched the other opposite group call that same thing, beautiful and wonderful, and the other one sin. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how in the world can people of Christian faith actually look at actions in this world and see it as righteous or unrighteous and kind of follow in the same footsteps? So that kind of blows me away. So here's where I want to move to. I don't even know about sin and all that. I don't know. But I think all of us can look at an action and see if it's humane or inhumane, right? There's some ground to be able to be a conversation of looking at something. So if you take immigration, let's say, I don't know about who's jumping the line. I don't know about, separation of kids at the border, like all of that. But I think when you see kids and the trauma that's caused to them in this scenario, we can all go, you know what? Let's at least have a conversation about the humaneness of what we're doing as a nation. And in that way, I think we can transcend theology, dogma, all of that, and kind of move into a place of conversation of, those old bracelets, what would Jesus do? I think everybody rationalized it to make Jesus their own, Jesus, where here, I think each of our hearts can go, wow, that hurts. I watched that and that can't be true. That can't be right. And again, I'm not talking about immigration. I'm talking about everything in our life, how we treat people. And in that way, I would invite us to think about a humane spirituality. How is it that we can restore? And this is my working definition. I know it needs to be much broader than this, but it allows you to kind of see where I'm coming from. It's kind of the idea of restoring human dignity to both the oppressed and the oppressor. It's really thinking about equity and the idea of really thinking about equality. Like, how do we pull this together? And so within the arts, I'm hoping that we can transcend the conversation of right and wrong, good and bad, black and white, the old dichotomies, or bifurcation, let's move into a place where we can ask as many questions as give any kinds of answers, touch the heart of people to begin to question, where are we at and should we be here? What's the possible future we can live into and call to, of how we can be humane using our spirituality. and it'll transcend the startup pitches, the workshops, and all of the areas that we're doing work within Soularize. But I really do think the artists will call us to this place of interpreting this in so many different ways, from so many different cultures, from so many different perspectives, to be able to understand what it is that each artist would hold and interpret. And I don't know if it's possible, but I would love for some battle cries to come out of this, like think about some of the wonder and battle, not in the sense of battle, but in the sense of the idea of the 60s. Remember, so many of those songs were the things that got us to be moved. I think there were pictures that actually created legislation during the civil rights movement. Like you can think about how all of this impacted that. And that is kind of my hope of why Soularize now, and really why humane spirituality as a theme. Next, I think, Barry, if you'd like to kind of just grab and kind of take it the next step with you as you think about kind of Soularize, arts, culture, and maybe even a little history as we think about this.
Yeah, I was thinking actually about this over the last couple of weeks as we've been exploring how this all comes together. And the interesting thing to me about Soularize in general was there was always space made for the arts in quite a unique, a kind of unique prioritizing of the art. So it wasn't just the trendy thing to do, have somebody do something cool with art, but it was really, I think, pretty much from the get-go, understood to be a really interesting medium by which people could express the inexpressible, or whether it's the inexpressible in frustration or the inexpressible in hope. And over the course of the live events that I was involved in, there was always this heavy focus and opportunity for people, both on a kind of amateur level, but also, just for everybody to be involved. I remember when we were in the Bahamas, and the community that we were involved with, there was a church run by my friends that was actually built on 5 art stones that they mined from a quarry in the middle of Nassau, and their entire community was built around a garden and arts in terms of relationship to spirituality. And I think as we find ourselves in this kind of, well, I hate to say post-pandemic, because I think that's jumping the gun, but let's just say post-pandemic-y something, as we've lived with this for 1.5 years, and we see some light at the end of the tunnel because of vaccines and things like that, and there are opportunities for people to get together. It seems to me that there is a point where things can go, a lot of people just are saying, oh, I just want to get, things to go back to normal, which is a very human reaction. We want to be able to do the things that we've always been able to do. But there's also, I think, this interesting revealing during the pandemic that what we saw as normal wasn't that great in a lot of ways. And now there's an opportunity. There's this philosopher I like, Frederick Jameson, and he talks about the utopian potential of catastrophe. And his notion was that a catastrophe reveals reality in a way that nobody has been willing to look at it beforehand. And a utopia is not this idealized world. It's actually a course of action responding to what's been revealed. And it seems to me that the arts are the best medium to do that, because the arts function with metaphor and symbol, and they're the most human of, I think, of our actions, really. They're the way, whether it's, visual arts or whether it's music, it's the way in which we as human beings can express our full humanity, and maybe in the context of Soularize, our full humanity, and you're right, we live in this world where there's so much inequality, and it's always somehow weirdly justified, or we're so immobilized that we don't know what to do about it, because we're always looking for the grand plan and the big master plan. And I think what art tells you is there is no master plan. There never was, there never will be. It's just actions on the part of people. So we're hoping that in this year's iteration of Soularize, both in online communities that we're hoping we can develop, in environments where people can bring their art to bear on anybody who's interested in joining them in a seminar or a session, or whether it's in the live event, that the arts can actually take a role, not in presenting some major trajectory, but to raise awareness, to open up our hearts, to make us think differently. Because I think, why do pictures make us cry? It's just canvas with paint on it, and yet we're moved, and it's because it captures the spectrum of what it means to be human. Or why does a song make all the hairs on your arms stand up? And that's not because the Holy Spirit showed up and made it anointing. It's because there's a human response, a visceral, emotive response to the power of the collective actions of instruments and voices coming together to make this sound that transcends language. I mean, a song is more than just words to music. It's a cry from the depth of a being in one way or another. It can be a cry of anger or frustration or sadness or longing or yearning. And I think when we're talking about humane spirituality, what we sort of need is maybe the echo of your son's band, a kind of rebel yell to invoke Billy Idol, whatever that sound takes, but a cry that resonates with people. And whether that comes through graphic arts or spoken word or poetry or painting or music or photography or whatever it is, it seems to me that we're at a prime moment to be moved by art. And it's been such a weird world, over here in Britain. This coming Monday, finally, music venues can reopen. It's been 18 months with no live music, and people are really feeling the loss of that. I think we've realized, we've had Netflix and television and stuff, and people have really clung to that. And yes, it's a distraction, but it's also the access to a medium that brings us reminders of what it means to be human in all of its forms. Art galleries are opening up again, street art festivals. There's new graffiti on the streets. I mean, our cities were devoid of people, and they were stripped of artistic expression. And I don't know. So I think that was a bit of a waffle, but I'm excited about bringing the arts to bear on whatever else happens at Soularize this year.
No, I think that's great. I mean, every time I hear Barry kind of talk, I'm like taking notes, whatever. I'm like, dude, just keep going. Like there is something really powerful about thoughtful arts,
Yeah.
like,
yeah. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. Well, maybe we should talk about the art pitches and the categories and why people might want to pitch their art and what we're thinking, right?
I love that. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
So there are two components, as Spencer said, to Soularize this year. One is the live event that will happen in Southern California in October. But around all of that is this idea of an online, not just an online event. So it's not just that you can participate in what happens in Fullerton online and watch it. It's also creating, Spencer calls them villages, but environments where people can create their own experience, do something and invite people to participate in that, whether it's just their friends or open it up to anybody else. And so we're hoping that we can get people who want to share their art with the world in some way, who will want to set up a little location, a village, and do a seminar, a session. And it could be you present your music, you talk about music, you teach people about poetry, you invite people to make some art. You can do all that stuff. I'll get to that, but we've kind of broken it down into some very vague categories. And the vague categories, I mean, we've got 8 specific categories, but it's a vague and loose grid because we don't know what people might want to bring to the table. But we've sort of broken it down. We have arts and installations, which covers a whole, that can be everything from painting to sculpture, and it could even include, you know, how people deal with architectural space, because that's, you know, design and art, stuff like that. We've got graphic art, which is probably more really about digital art. I mean, I think somebody should probably do a session on digital art and NFTs and how you can make $69 million encapsulating something in a non-fungible token that only one person can open in this age where everything is available. But we have a component for graphic art, and that could be, you know, somebody who's really into how you put together visual information, because, you know, we live in an age where visual media dominate all the worlds that we live in. Everything is cultivated around that, and there are lots of critiques to be made of that, but there are also lots of positives to be said about how we frame and shape those things. Music, so I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We all in some ways live for it. There's also music video, and it might be that someone either wants to make music videos and knows how to make them, or is interested in making them, or has got music videos to show. And then we've got photography and short films and short stories and spoken word. I mean, spoken word has become such a big environment for self-expression in the last, I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it's one of the things that it kind of reminds me of beat poetry in the 50s, really, in the way in which people are kind of finding these new rhythms of verbal expression, whether it's, you know, set to music or just the spoken word alone. But spoken word seems to be everywhere. So those are the sort of 8 basic categories that we've got, and we might amend that as people begin to respond. We might not, we might just leave them right there and say these are the 8 categories and we'll fit you in somewhere, because I think that does cover a fairly broad spectrum of things. I don't know where your coffee making will fit, Kevin, but somewhere in there there's artistry. Kevin's a wicked coffee maker, by the way, travels around the world making coffee for people. So which I think is artistry as much as it is functionality. So you know, I mean, I think there's art in everything, but anyway, I won't get too crazy. But so those are the categories that we have. The other component is why would somebody want to do that? And I mean, on one level, I go, well, it's pretty obvious why you want to do that, because you make art to share. I mean, I think first and foremost, you make art for yourself. If you don't, it's too calculated, and I think that just moves into something else. But we make art first of all because we're passionate about some form of self-expression, and it means something to us. But there's something about art that yearns to be shared with people. and it's something that we want to get response and understanding, and we want to share our gifts with people. And as I said earlier, our real hope is that the arts will take on a sort of life of their own in this venture this year, and that these little pods of artistic expression will become environments where really interesting and innovative ideas float to the surface through people's self-expression. I mean, it's amazing what you can release in somebody by teaching somebody how to write a 3-chord song. Just an amazing thing that can happen when you go, yeah, it's just that way. In fact, the guy Jeff Tweedy from Wilco published a book this year called Just One Song, which is basically, don't worry about writing an album, don't worry about anything else, let's just write one song. And it's a book about how to write a song, and it's a way for people to tap into something that they probably didn't even know they could do, because we're all hungry, but also blocked by insecurities and our seeming lack of ability and stuff like that. But, you know, the entire punk movement operated on 3 chords and the truth. So, you know, you get 3 chords, go get a band. And the first punk magazine had 3 chords hand drawn on the cover. It's like, here's 3 chords, now go make a band. That's a reason to get a room here at Soularize and do your thing, to champion your particular version of the arts, to share your own artistry, but also to share with people what you've learned, what you understand about this, and maybe help somebody unlock their own abilities that they didn't know they had. So we're hoping that people will sign up and get a room in this kind of context, and you know, put their art out there and create a learning environment for people to join in, but also that you'll let your friends know. I keep thinking of people all the time. It's like, I've got to tell so-and-so because they're a poet. They might be into this, to tell them as well, because the more the merrier. And who knows what collaborations and permutations might come from this. So that's the kind of hopefully inspirational mechanism behind it. Spencer will tell you a little bit more, I think, about the mechanics of it, because I'm an artist. I can barely make Zoom work. Now I can make Zoom work, but I don't want to.
I love it. Well, yeah. So as Barry said, there's 8 categories. And the thing that's kind of unique about this is that we ultimately we're not trying to own anything of yours. In fact, we won't even host the videos on our platform. They'll be on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever else you are hosting your showcase at. And so the thing that we're doing is we've got an app. And it's $19.95. And it allows people, the reason why we did it at such a low price is we want everyone to be able to participate. But we wanted at least a bar. We ran a website called The Ooze years ago, and what killed it was people coming in and trolling it and flaming it, everything else. So $19.95, we know who everybody is. And then if somebody trolls the place, we just return their money and say, you're not welcome. So we're trying to create a private community for engagement. And really, your art you bring there and you'll link to it. And then the discussion happens in the app, a private showcase area where you can get response to your work as well. So it's not just posting it and walking away, it's posting it and allowing people to respond to it. And you can, over the months, You can be involved in chat. You can re-upload it. You can change the lyric. You can collaborate with people. You can do a change on a graphic, whatever it might be. Re-edit a video, short video, however it might happen, to the point where basically in Shane, you're gonna have to help me. Is it September 27th or something like that?
Yeah, 27th.
So by September 27th, it has to be locked in, and then it's judged. There are two ways of it being judged. The first one is that on the September 27th, we're going to go through all of the arts and choose at least 2 per category to integrate into our streaming program. And that'll be streamed to everyone around the world who has the app, as well as to all the villages that are choosing whatever content they want to use from the Soularize stream. But they might say, hey, on Monday night, on Thursday night, we're going to do a full, potluck. So they might not even stream anything that night. But they also might go in and go, wow, I want to do a mixtape almost. Here's this painting, here's this imagery, here's this spoken word piece, here's this short film, all on the theme of X, whatever it is. And they do a whole portion around that. So don't think of it just as one-off. Oh, okay, it'll be shown for 10 minutes, on a Thursday afternoon, then it's gone. It really is the interactive community of putting it together and getting people to have feedback with it, and then meeting a lot of people who might platform it one way or another. The other thing that we're going to be encouraging is anybody who's got a publication, anybody who's got an art show, anybody who's got a gallery, if you want this kind of art, come in and look and create community. Because the other thing that's powerful about the app is if you choose to share your contact information, you now can build this beautiful relational Rolodex, in a sense, with other artists, other musicians, other speakers and writers, or just people who are in the community who want to find out about even collecting your stuff. I think especially around the arts, maybe even startup pitches, we might find some people who like the work or like the startup idea, and they'll create an Indiegogo behind some of the people and start to be the people who are the critical mass for this. That's what I kind of could envision and see. And so that's the one type of award that we'll be giving. And that literally is, as silly as it sounds, but for a lot of people, I am surprised to this day how many people say I had an article on the ooze, or I did a workshop at Soularize. We actually have a little Pomodoro, whatever the name is, with the palms, and it was like official selection Soularize, and you can place that anywhere you want as a selection or as an award winner, which I doubt it'll help, but who knows, probably, who knows. But we're going to do that this year because I think that's a powerful way of saying we're in community and we were talking about this issue and how that might build upon itself. The other part is the People's Choice Award. And this may seem silly and stupid, but what we want is for people who are going to be part of the community on those 3 days from anywhere in the world to be able to have things that they can do and share. Even if they're as remote and isolated, they can vote on the works of art. They can put a question for you in your chat for arts. They can be involved in polls during the main session. They can ask questions. So no matter where they are as involved and invited to participate as anyone who might be at the main event or at a village somewhere else. So people won't be left out. And so the People's Choice Award, it literally will open on the morning of the 21st, and people will be able to rate all of the works in the pitch gallery. And remember, the pitch galleries have the startups, the workshops, as well as all of the arts. And they'll be able to rate stars 1 to 5, whatever. And we'll be able to then use that to showcase things. We're thinking, again, don't hold me to it, but we're thinking about actually having a podcast come out of Soularize to highlight all of the wonderful People's Choice Awards and all of the different moments that have happened at Soularize to help people kind of see one more way of showcasing this. So those are some of the ideas. The other part is that we will be utilizing it in our social media channel to try to present your work through all of the channels we have to be able to get as much exposure as possible to let people know about you, your work, and the work that we're doing together at Soularize.
Oh,
Awesome, Spencer.
I should also say we are in the process of putting together, I mean, when we say judges, we don't mean like, Dancing with the Stars judges, brutal, you got your steps wrong. We're putting together a group of people who cover a kind of broad spectrum of artistic expression. And we're going to get them together, and together we're going to basically find the work that we think expresses the theme of Soularize this year in the most profound way. So there's no judgment, there's just simply a highlighting, but you can't really call them highlighters. It sounds like we've got yellow pens. But anyway, so we're putting together a group, a very diverse group of people who work in different mediums, who are going to help us like filter through all these things and go, this is something we can pay attention to here. So yeah.
Well, so ultimately, the thing that we're going to be doing is Soularize actually has its own site, soularize.live, but also you can go to soularizearts.com, and it's a mini site in and of itself. And that's where we'll showcase and highlight all the arts. You'll go to soularizestartups.com, and that'll be the whole startups area. So it may be that if someone says, wow, I just don't feel comfortable with this part or that part, or I really am interested more in the arts to send my friends to, then we'll have individual little platforms for each of these. And then all of it comes together in the app on Soularize. And so real quick, let me just kind of show you what it looks like.
Right. Spencer, because we want to leave a little time for Q&A. As he's pulling that up, I mean, the simple steps to participate is just you go to the Soularize Arts. That's where you submit your application. It's like 6 questions. Submit a sample of your work, and then that email instantly goes. That application instantly goes to Barry and us, and then we just approve it. And then basically you just have to buy the app, the $20, and then we'll send you a little link that allows you to access what Spencer's going to show you right now, which is your virtual space.
So exactly. So as Shayna was just explaining, I was trying to show it as you were doing it. So just so you knew that I was showing it, you go into here, and then you hit the apply now, and then this is where you'll fill out the information. It costs nothing to apply. So there are no application fees or anything else like that. Just apply, and it's a very simple application. And then from there, if accepted, we do ask you to buy the app then to build your showcase. And then this is the web portion of it. You'd come into the agenda, and then you can see the pitch galleries. And over here, you can see that Barry has set up a one to show you what it kind of looks like. And again, what you've got here is the main area, and over here is the chat, and this remains open the whole time, so people will begin to start to talk about what you're doing, and you can respond to them the whole time. Also, many of the judges will jump in and try to put in some notes, like, for a show, like, hey, what if you thought of this? What have you thought about this? And then people will begin to actually like it as well. Different than rating, but they'll be able to like. You could put in your information and share your overall idea, then put in imagery of what you're doing, if it's an art that is done as a visual. And then also you can check and see who the person is and view their profile and such. And the profiles are pretty fun to be able to bookmark, say hi, and connect with people in that way. If it's a music video, or even a music or a short story, or a short film, this area would be a film
Yeah.
that's connected to YouTube, Vimeo, or whatever. And again, We don't want to try to own anything. It's on your site in your way. We'd ask that you would maybe at the front end of it or in the description say, this is a submission I'm doing for Soularize. You can check out Soularize over here, because we would love for other people that follow you that are like-minded in this way to have the opportunity to at least choose if they want to join in and be a part of the conversation. Once you're selected to be able to build this, there is a very simple web app that you will get. And you can access it from your phone or from the web. And basically you put in this information, you know, it's your like a logo for it, your website, address or location, what you're trying to do, the description. If you've got a slogan, you could do a cover photo, you could put in the photos themselves. And then here, if it was going to be a movie or a song or music, then you would add the recorded video. When you add the recorded video, you would actually upload a link. And again, all of these services are available to be able to use as the link. All right. And you can also add PDFs. If you've got some description of how your movie was made or the song, or if you wanted to share the lyrics or even the chords, you know, there are 1,000 different ways that you can do it. And then we will put your name in here. You just always have to use the same email that you use to signing up for the app. But you can also add additional presenters. They also have to get the app and to be able to participate. But you can add as many people to your team as you want to participate in that. So that's basically the idea behind it. We're trying to make it as easy and as accessible as possible. We're using Whova as our technology partner. They have 3 million downloads with it. They've run 20,000 different hybrid events. So we don't even have to be in the technology business. They do all of the technical work and they're improving it every week. I am so impressed with what they do. So it'll be reliable, the stream will happen, your work will get up there and it'll be safe and secure. So perhaps if there are any questions, we'll try to wrap up as we're moving forward with this. Thoughts, comments, questions, ideas, pushback, anything that you're thinking.
Yeah, feedback. We would love any feedback as well, you guys.
Well, and your questions, even if they're objections, aren't bad. They're how we build our FAQs. Like we don't even know what we're missing. You know, this, again, this is the first one. This is our, you know, minimum viable benefit with it. So. Yeah, Gary said an impressive functionality. Whova is the one to blame for that, but I would say that Shayna and I, for the last 4, maybe 5 months, 6 months, have been hacking the system to try to make it work for what we want to try to do. Go ahead, Barry. I might interrupt you, Gary.
That is, I mean, just it looks like it's easy, it's straightforward, and probably utilizes whatever technology and someone is already using, you know, doesn't cause them to start over like, oh man, I'm not comfortable moving it over there, what have you. So I think that's good. I think that part of it will be how large a community and what's the nature of the community. So the interaction is that value worth that buying the app.
Right.
So that'll kind of be the, you know, but you've allowed them to put it out there before like buying the app. So
right.
And you have a group of judges or people, artists who will take a look at it and comment on it or give value before they have to buy the app.
Sure.
And so
that was intentional.
Yeah.
That curation, because we thought at first we were going to have people go directly to the app, but Spencer was able to set up an awesome system so that people could submit and we can curate. I mean, obviously, you know, 99% of the people that are going to submit are going to be approved, I would imagine. But if you get some crazy, naysayers. They're not, we don't want to have to be in the business of refunding and, telling people no.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think good.
The
You
other
got
thing
any
that I would
questions?
say, sorry,
I want to, is there any questions on the categories? I mean, for you guys, you're all musicians. And then of course, Rick, we don't have like an exact category for you other than graphic art. So what do you guys think about the categories?
Oh, I think cartoons and graphic art go hand in hand. Plus, you can put it in fine art as far as I'm concerned.
Here's today's contribution. This is the historical Jesus thinking about Soularize 2021. So, I don't know what category that goes in, but that's where I'll start. How's that?
Awesome.
Love it. Hey, I wanted to follow up on Gary's idea about the numbers of people and such that to set expectations. This is what we believe. The next 90 days are going to be really startup pitches, artists, workshop submitters, so it's going to be kind of the community building their platform there. So don't assume a ton of engagement apart from those who are the judges. So, Barry will be popping in, others will be popping in on the arts. We've got a number of groups that are looking at the startup pitches to give insight input. Our whole idea is to actually help you make it as as interesting and evocative as possible before the deadline date. You know what I mean? So, and then at the deadline date, we're inviting the world to come and play and participate. And then that's where you'll get the feedback from others. So expectation, to kind of think about a 90-day and a 90-day deal in that.
Yeah, I think that we have not gone on a full push for Soularize. We're in the content building stage. So that's why artists are that's our first invite is artists. And then, next week we'll do a webinar on villages to empower communities, faith communities. And we're not just talking about Christian, we're talking about interfaith communities joining the conversation and hosting their own events using our content. And then we'll get into the startup pitches, and Spencer's worked with some networks to invite people to pitch ideas. But so we're in content building. So I know Rick's in the app already, and it's lean right now. We've just got the architecture, we've got the containers, and now we need people in there to start adding stuff in. So, and the beauty of this app is that we can adjust things as we need to on the fly. It's really elegant. Hey, so Stephen, did you want to introduce yourself? We have Stephen on the Zoom, but he's muted.
Hi, I'm muted. Hi.
No, you're Stephen. You're not muted.
Walker. I live in Los Angeles. Good friend of Barry's. I work in the arts and graphic design for music, and among other personal hobbies of art, photography, painting, everything.
Stephen's selling himself short.
Yeah.
He works for Warner Brothers, and he designs wicked album covers. He's an unbelievable photographer, and his artwork is crazy. And he has one of the coolest houses in Los Angeles.
Oh my gosh.
You're sweet, Barry.
Well, it sounds like you're going to fit into several of our categories, Stephen. And that's another point. You can submit multiple, like, many artists are multiple artists. So, your $20 allows you to, you'll have to put in an application for each one, but you could have a graphic arts piece. You could have, a spoken word piece,
Yeah.
Cool. I'm a little interested, or more interested in finding out what's going on this fall with Soularize, and how I think everybody's kind of ready to get back into community and physical meeting with people and doing things artistic in groups or you know, that kind of thing. So I'd be
Yeah.
curious to just hear more about the plans for that.
All right, awesome. So you guys, we're at 11:02. So we would love, actually, Spencer, be an opportunity for you to kind of summarize Soularize again. But if, you know, Kevin, I know it's 4 a.m. If you feel like jumping off, or feel free to stay on. And Gary, we'd love to have you stay, but, you know, feel free. We just don't want you to feel rude. And now, Spencer, you can answer Stephen's question.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so ultimately, the live event, the main hosting event is going to be in Fullerton. We love Fullerton. It's, you know, just this great downtown quaint area. And so there's right within walking distance of the train station, as well as all of the just great bars and coffee houses and places to eat. During the venue we have is an old Methodist church, holds up to 800 people. The acoustics are amazing, you know, for that kind of, we won't probably be doing large bands kind of thing, but for acoustical works and others, it's just pretty amazing. It's all set up and does live streaming now. So the technology stuff is all set there. The main thing is that in our agenda, we have at least 2 hours during any kind of meal time or break. You know, like, we want people to get together and have conversations. You know, whenever I go to events, it's very rarely the keynote speaker is, you know, I mean, it's wonderful and it's an excuse, but mostly it's the conversations that happen around that. But the other part is that, like, when we did a thing in Seattle, we had a thing called the Theology Pub, but that was because it was a fun name. This was 20 years ago, and it was an evangelical event kind of thing. But all of a sudden, somebody started rolling in a pony keg, and I'm like, cool, like, let's make it a real theology pub, you know. And I think it was the first time alcohol was served at a real event, you know. So we're not trying to even control the event, you know. What we're trying to say is what can evolve, but we also want to make available space if you've got an idea. You know, at many of our events, we've had just wonderful things that we've planned ahead. And then the artist has said, well, can we do this? Can we do this? And we would love to not only create space, but maybe help with, you know, logistics of it in one way or another, and then announce it ahead of time so people are prepared to be able to bring something from home or you know, whatever. One year we even did just what we called the Dirty Worship Band, and we had a bunch of people just pull together and just jam. You know what I mean? Again, we don't even know what you know, whether we have a house band or not. We're just at that part of trying to ask what it'll be. But every Soularize that we've had, I think everyone has walked away with feeling a sense of really humility and hospitality at the center. You know, there's no green rooms, there's no fancy place. In fact, when we did it the Bahamas, we actually made everybody kind of strip down into their swimsuits, get on a party barge, and we rented a private island and drank click beers, and everybody bobbed out. And so there was no doctors or misters or whatever, and you'd see, you know, NT Wright bobbing out with Maggie with everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't matter who you were. It's all about the relationship part in that way. So I don't know if that answers it, or Stephen, is there thoughts or follow-up? What are you thinking?
That sounds great. Looking forward to just hearing more about it, and, you know, hopefully getting down to Fullerton.
Right on. So Stephen, what do you picture? I'd love to hear your perspective of what little you know about Soularize. What do you picture it being?
I've actually had no preconceptions. I've, you know, just read the email this morning and it sounded interesting. And, you know, I think.
Go to Fullerton, Steve.
What's that?
Go to Fullerton. You won't be disappointed.
Okay. I don't think I've been to Fullerton. Have we been to, I don't think we have. Has Huell-Hauser been to Fullerton?
He
I'm
probably
sure
has.
Okay, then I've probably seen a show about it.
You'll have to cross over the OC line, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Actually, we're going to Newport Beach this weekend, so maybe close to Fullerton.
Kind of. I live in Newport, so that's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Down
Yeah,
back
I mean,
behind.
just, after hearing this, it just sounds amazing to, like, have an artistic kind of gathering that's spiritual as well, and meeting other like-minded or not like-minded people.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting because you'll also find people who are kind of spiritual innovators working kind of with startup pitches. You'll also find a real diverse group of people doing workshops that could be philosophical, theological. It just might be a desire is to pull together anybody thinking about this theme in this time. And Stephen, I think you're right. Like we took a gamble back in January saying, we don't really care how many people show up locally. But now as we're talking about it, more and more people are like with a vaccine and everything else going like, no, it's time. Let's get together in a room. Let's physically see, touch, smell, be together in that way. And so we don't care how many people are. That's not our desire. But the right kind of people gathering together in that kind of spirit, I think it'll be very surprising and fun.
Awesome. So yeah, you guys can find out more on Soularize.live. There, we've got YouTube videos out there, Stephen, if you want to see some of the stuff we've done in the past, kind of fun. There's a good one with Barry's music. I love that video. That's the best. All right, you guys, I think we got to wrap it up.
Barry, any closing comments?
No.
All right.
It was great.
Man, a few words at this moment, at least.
I was lost for words there.
All right.
Nice to meet everybody. Good to hear from you, Stephen. Nice to see you, Rick and Gary. And,
All right.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.